Hello, Culture Matters podcast listeners. You're in for a treat today. Before I introduce you to our guest, someone who's been on the show before, very exciting. Here's a quote just for this episode. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Seneca. Our guest today has been on the Culture Matters before, but it is long overdue. If you haven't listened to episode 477, titled Envisioning Success, or episode 572, A Family Affair, Nate Swink is a friend of the Culture Matters podcast. He's not only a founder, having started younger than most and learned more than most, he's also a pops now and a husband, a great friend of the Culture Matters podcast. We originally met in a community of like-minded people trying to learn and grow and get better every single day. The Top Contractor School, shout out to them. And Nate has been a friend for years, so I can't wait to learn how much you've grown, Nate, and reflect upon that. We were just talking before we hit record that 2 years ago we recorded a podcast together. So thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast.
Yeah, good to be here, Jay. Appreciate it. It's good to see you.
I don't recall. I'm curious how much fatherhood has had an impact in being a leader of men, in the field, because I don't recall if you were a father then.
No, I wasn't. So the last podcast we did was a three-way with you, me, and my dad. That sounded kind of odd. That was around September of 2024. And by then my daughter was she was born 12/3/23. So she was
Wow.
I don't know, it's been a long day. What is the math on that? Like
Well, so
10 months
very
old or
young.
something? Yeah, she was young. So now she'll be 3 in December, and my son just turned a year on the 3rd. He just turned a year old. So yeah, two kids and the wife and working too many hours and all of that. It's good
So
though.
one of your children didn't even exist before we recorded that. Like they
Yeah,
weren't even in
exactly.
existence of reality.
Nope, not yet. They were just a sperm. They were
Wow.
just a sperm, yeah.
Well, that's if you even kept them. But now, what is that like looking back at? And for the audience that doesn't know your story or know what business you're in or how long you've been in business, if you could just give them a quick download, because you're fairly young with as an entrepreneur, all
Yeah, so
things considered.
I'm 30 years old now. I started my company, dropped out of high school at 16 to start the company. Really started taking it serious over the last, 8 years or so, 7 years since I was in my early 20s, early to mid 20s. We're a structural and miscellaneous steel company based out of Southern California, and we'll do pretty close to 10 million, if not a little over this year. So last year we did 5.2, so we're nearly doubling in size this year, and that's been a whole nother mess in itself. So yeah, it's good. All things considered, God's good. Blessed.
When you think about your journey from 16 to early 20s as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of I think they're called Generation Z and Y. I'm gonna have to look that up. That are listening, that are in those, they're in the 20s. They're in the early 20s. And they may not be sure what they want to do. But it seemed like you knew what you wanted to do young.
Yeah, I don't know if it was what I I knew I wanted to do. It just was easy, right? Like my dad was in construction and he owned a company. My grandpa owned multiple companies as my dad was growing up. So I just kind of fell into it. And now I'm not in, my dad's in a completely different side of construction. But yeah, I just started learning how to weld when I was 13, and it's a good trade to get into. So got into the trade first as a what they call a rig welder, where you're just, yourself in a truck with a welding machine on it. You know, have welder will travel kind of thing. And then out of that started building teams and people. And now we run anywhere from, I think we're running around like 35 to 40 guys right now
Wow.
between office and field. Yeah.
What advice, what's it like to handle that degree of responsibility, that many lives, that many mouths to feed?
It's a lot of responsibility. I don't let it really get to me too much from that angle. Some days it gets heavy, right? There's been scenarios where it gets really heavy, but you kind of need to put different things in different boxes so you can make decisions. You can't, when you're making a decision, you can't necessarily think that it's going to impact everybody, right? If something bad happens, right? You just, I don't know if that's responsible or irresponsible, but I think that's the right answer, to be honest. It's not like you can sit in every single decision and say, how's it going to affect these 40 people? Because when you're growing and making business moves, oftentimes you're putting other people at risk. There's risk involved. So,
Lately I've had a thought. I'd like your opinion on it, that like as the person in that ultimate position of accountability, like you're in the position of founder, CEO, for every right decision you make, you're wrong three times.
yeah, probably on other things, and a lot of things, there's no right way or right time. Like I'm very big on positioning, and my executive coach talks about positioning and framing quite a lot when we're having discussions. Um, but sometimes there's just no way around it. With certain people, they're going to bitch or complain, or you're going to have some issue with something. So sometimes it's better just to rip the band-aid off and go for it instead of prolonging it, is my approach. With that, you need to be tactful and have positioning. Um, but there is a lot of points to your comment where, yeah, you're going to make a few mistakes to good your good decisions. Eventually, you want to make less bad decisions or make more good decisions. Otherwise, you're going to lose the money doing that. Um, so,
Positioning. What do you mean by positioning? That's interesting.
so positioning to me is making sure that you are phrasing a conversation right, or setting things up the way you want them to flow. It's kind of like Sun Tzu, Art of War, kind of stuff like that, right? Sun Tzu, they actually talk a ton about positioning, right? If you're this, then you're positioned to do this, right? And when you're here, you need to understand. So positioning is like, um, the definition, but if I had
Wow.
to define it, how would I define it? I would define positioning as your current state in relation to all other states around you, right? That could be
Wow.
my current state against your current business state, my current state against your current mental or physical state. And you have to make sure you're positioned in all those ecosystems in the right way. And then also be um, consciously positioning yourself in those, right? So it could be sending something, before you go to a meeting, to one of the people that you're going to go in the meeting with, right? Or like, different things like that. So you're positioning them to think about you so that when you go into the meeting, or so you could use it for sales, or you could use it for all sorts of different things.
You reminded me, I think there's a quote by, oh, I don't want to say it's Lao Tzu or Sun Tzu. Let's just say, don't interrupt your enemy while they're making a mistake.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that was Sun Tzu or who that was, but yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of them, right? And it talks about making sure that you have the right, um, like in Art of War, right? Does he say? Oh, I might just pull up the quote, but he says, war is costly. I'm going to paraphrase, right? He says, like, it will cost, 1,000 men and 500 horses and this many cows and this many people to feed the cows and horses and this and this and this. So he's pretty much saying, like, know what you're getting into before you start, right? So that's the cost. So make sure you're prepared and ready to give up all those costs to either win or lose, you know?
I was
Um,
going to ask what relationship preparation has had in your journey.
yeah, honestly, the last year, I'd say I've done a shitty job preparing for certain things and a really good job preparing for other things. I've let some things completely blindside me that now is making me more things that I'm accountable for because I own the company. So now it's adding a lot more accountability awareness to my shoulders and thinking it's changing the frame in which I view things, right? So it's been painful.
What you mentioned earlier, a massive growth. What had to change from 5 to 10? I mean, double. What had to change for the business to nearly double?
So I that's part of the problem where I failed to prep. We didn't have the right thing. Not enough of the things that needed to change changed before we did that. That's the issue, right? I didn't,
Awareness.
I was not prepared to, I didn't have my 1,000 men and 100 horses and 100 pieces of gold or whatever, Sun Tzu says in that book. I didn't have all that ready to go. I just went to war with lack of preparation. So
So you're a
that's,
founding father.
I guess, yeah,
They had Franklin trying to get the French to give them extra capital.
yeah, something, man.
The founding
So
fathers, they didn't have enough cattle, they didn't have enough guns, they didn't have enough.
yeah, so that's where I'm at. Yeah. So,
How did they beat the British?
yeah,
I don't know.
bootstrapped.
But it's a good question. It's well, easy for me to say I'm the host. Good question. I don't know the answer. I'd love to know. How did they have, opinions or guesses?
Well, they thought outside of the box, right? If you think about it all, the British always formed in lines and they always fought in lines because that's the way they've done for hundreds of years. And the settlers didn't do that. They would do guerrilla warfare and other things of that nature. They would also fight in lines, but some of them would also just
Gorilla.
hide in the bushes waiting to ambush somebody, you know what I mean? And that wasn't what you did back then. You would, stand in lines and shoot at each other and see see who falls over. It's like that's great tactics, you know.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
yeah, no, that was it.
What's the advantage of being small compared to your competitors?
Uh, I'm not sure. I would say the advantage at times can be um, more of a personal touch that we put on things, possibly better communication, but there's also times where in trying to grow so fast, we might have, cut off our own leg in doing that, right? So something that we once had as our strong suit is now not as of a strong suit because we tried to grow so fast. So now we don't have enough attention to devote, right? So we're at an interesting point, in our journey.
When did it start feeling like you were really building something in this 14 plus year journey versus just having independence and making your own way in the world?
Yeah, I would say, hmm, I'm not sure. I don't consciously have a date or time in my head on when the pivotal moment was. Um, I mean, we're not big, but we're not small by any means. I mean, for us to do 9 to 10 million this year, that's a decent amount of market share. We're not tiny
We also
anymore.
mentioned 35 to 40 people are part of this ecology.
Yeah,
Each person affects at least four people on average, like family wise.
yeah,
It's a lot of people.
yeah. Now we're feeding indirectly 160 people. So yeah, that's pretty cool to think about. I actually didn't think about that before.
You're
So
large enough
is
to
that
destroy
really
a
each
full.
each
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
four people, huh? Wow, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. One of my mentors in the search business of 50 some odd years shared that with me once. I thought that was very meaningful anecdote.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it makes me feel good, definitely,
Because some
when
families could
stuff
be
isn't
more,
going.
some less. And then that's not even thinking about, people's neighbors, or it's nothing worse than having a neighbor where the house isn't being kept because they ran out of money, because now that lowers the standard for the neighborhood. You know how like people start buying the same car as their neighbors? It's just like copy. Aristotle talked about mimesis, is copycat. We're copycatting creatures. So uh,
Yeah.
the power of the example. Now, I would be curious of because
Hmm.
people are, some families have, some households have 10 people, some have two, some have three, some have seven, but four was like maybe the statistical average. Curious.
Yeah, I would say without sounding like a bigot or anything, I would say definitely it's a minimum of four because the majority of those 30 to 40 people that are employed are Hispanic and they tend to have larger families, statistically speaking,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
culture wise, huge
Yeah.
core
Yeah.
values for family.
Yeah. So, I mean, I
Huge.
bet it's minimum of 4 to 6,
Could
probably.
be even more.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've at least anecdotally, people send money back to their home of origin where they have massive families because of the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
economic
Yeah.
ramifications of the United States of America on other cultures.
Yep.
I learned that when I was a bouncer in Newark, New Jersey, when I was in high school, because
About,
you were the welder and I was the bouncer. How about that for, yeah.
I guess. You probably got laid a lot more than I did with you being the bouncer.
Is this thing recording? Oh my God, I'm screwed. It was a very interesting childhood, to say the least. I think the listeners might actually get a kick out of learning a little bit more about my story. But yeah, I was very good at stopping fights before they happened. Like extremely good at that. There was a science and an art to stopping fights. Anyway, I digress. So, essentially, a lot of people rely on you.
We should dive into that. I don't know. I might interview you for a few minutes.
Do you have, no, you don't have a podcast, right? No.
No, but I do right now.
You are a
Go
great,
ahead.
actually, I want to ask you about, you are a great, I'll share more, but you are a great listener from my
Uh,
experience.
yeah. Well,
You
if my
ask, you
wife
ask
was
good
on the
questions.
call, if my wife was on the call, she'd say you're full of shit.
You're also you always say what's on your mind too. Is that something that you've had to work towards, or is it the
No,
opposite? We have to work
I don't
against
have to work towards it. I have to work
it.
against it. Uh,
Try to do
I'm
you a
only,
solid.
yeah, I'm 30, man, and I'm really trying to this year trying to work on certain emotional maturity things because yeah, sometimes it's a little wild.
Yeah, amen to that. Um, I actually have a culture question on that. As far as like, what have you learned from your teams? over your tenure as a leader? Like, what have you actually learned from your people and how they show up, how they work with their families, what they value?
Yeah, I don't know if it's one direct thing. Again, I'm not that um I don't have like epiphanies and then write them down, let's say. But I will tell you this, like right now, my culture in the company is not the greatest in full transparency. Like you said, I mean, I'll just say how it is. And where I've lost my where I've taken my eye off the ball is what people want who are working for you is they want some praise and accolades, and they want not constant communication, but at least some sort of directional
Hmm.
communication on what's going on. And usually when you give that to them, or when you know, give them the carrot or the stick, and you do it in a quick way where if they, are if they're having an issue, you reprimand them quickly and have a discussion quickly in a positive way, right? Or if they're doing a good job, you praise them very quickly. That's when your culture tends to be the best. Uh, right now, we're kind of getting back into doing that because, like I said, we grew so fast and I was paying attention to so many other things that going outside and because we have a fabrication shop where I think we have around like 18 to 20 people just working in there on two shifts, a day and night shift. But, I used to go out there more, talk to people, check in on them, their family,
Hmm.
things of that nature. This year, I haven't done it very much, but I can see when I do it. So Saturday, I was here working and I went out to the shop, was checking on these guys, and it was hot. It was like in our building, probably over 100 degrees. And these guys were kicking ass, working really fast. And it was fun. I got a chance to talk to one of them and check in on him and his wife. And then I went across the street into this Mexican market and got a bunch of Gatorades and Mexican ice cream and brought it back to him. And it was like I had a little epiphany, like, you know what? That was fun. That was enjoyable. Why did I
Oh,
why have I made that less of a priority? Because that is a priority, to make sure that people feel good in where they're working, and I have
beautiful.
lost that, so that's something that I'm more aware of after that incident this last Saturday, and thought, and maybe I've been focusing on the wrong things this year.
What made you realize that you took your eye off the ball?
Just the interaction, I think, with the guys, just it just kind of clicked, like people are gonna want to work harder when obvious, and this is obvious, like this isn't, oh my gosh, this isn't crazy information. People are going to want to work harder when they're feeling appreciated, and when you're going out there giving them an attaboy, um, and when you're not, then that's where your culture will start to erode. Quite, and that's just pretty obvious. Another thing where we've lacked is being more transparent on what the standards are. Right? You get so busy, you try to grow so fast, and then you get busy on executing where you let shit slide and you're not going to call out everything. Um, and that's you know, another point of failure. So now you have to go in and rebuild that. You have to go in and have conversations of, hey, this is not our standard. Here's who we are. Here's what we're trying to achieve. Um, and get that identity back. So I would say that's what I'm working on now is getting that identity back. And it's felt like you know, it's a lot of work, but it needs to be done.
I want to acknowledge you. Yes, it may be simple, but it's beautiful. And here's my uh, case study. Culture Matters started because of this mantra, the first three steps. When the customer walks through the door, they get greeted with a warm, hearty hello. The experience starts at the door and ends with a goodbye. And at the time, I was a co-founder in a retail operation where we actually had a door and people would walk through it. and I would greet the people. I would lead by example and actually do that, right? Start the experience starts at the door and ends with a goodbye. People get greeted in. They would be engaged with in a positive way. And we had conversations constantly in our team meetings about the greeting, the exit, the greeting, the exit. They were given, and this was a retail fitness facility. So you could go a long way by giving a water bottle to a member on the house and asking them to help us. We asked them at the time if they would check in on Facebook. This is 12 years ago or whatever. Uh, so that ultimately, right, we're giving something, we're asking for something, it's positive, and that's where the idea came about. Oh wow, I could teach companies how to have a culture because I experienced
Yeah.
as a at the time as a person in a position of authority that was considered a leader. I benefit. I felt like I had significance and I mattered in the world based on seeing the results of that, like the fruit from the customer experience as well as the employee engagement, and and said, oh, I'm gonna teach culture. That was like the original idea came from that experience. And what you talked about appreciating the team and calling it holding the standard. They might be simple things, but they're doing and thinking are so and I've gotten away from things that have worked. I'm coming out of one of those seasons now. I tried to I tried an isolation strategy that didn't work. So I went from being the guy that greeted everybody at the door to being the guy that didn't even wasn't even standing at the front door. And that brings a lot of shame and like shame, embarrassment. Like, oh man, what happened to that?
Yeah, it
So
can,
hopefully that
right? It can. Yeah, I love it. Taking notes. This is good.
yeah, you're reminding me why I started the company.
To help idiots like me.
I was at what did I read today? It's a quote in our house. It was stupid has no limits and genius knows its limits.
Yeah.
Stupid has no limits. I don't know. It was like I was an idiot too. So yesterday. Um oh. What okay. So have what's different about walking through? Have you noticed an energy shift?
Oh, it's only been a couple days. It's only Monday. That was Saturday. That was literally this last Saturday, two
Oh
days ago.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll get better. It's just it really has, you know, it's changed because you get busy, I think, as a founder or whatever, could be as a manager, and then you start to just look at your people like you're getting in the way of me doing my work, whereas your people are your work. So you're getting it twisted. Your people are your work. They're not getting in the way of you doing your work. Um, and that happens when you get overwhelmed and burnt out, I think.
Hmm.
It's not an inherent thing, right? I don't think anybody, unless you're just a total asshole, nobody just wakes up and thinks all these people are idiots and they're in my way and get out of my way. I'm trying to get stuff done. Don't talk to me. I don't think that happens naturally. I think it's something that unconsciously starts to evolve from just getting burnt out and pulled 100 different directions.
Hmm. What um how do you know culture is healthy?
I would say you could feel it just from experience. You can feel it and you can see it. You can feel the excitement or you can feel the drag. We've all been there, right? There's a lot of things. Culture is a very interesting thing. This happened to me a couple times now on American Airlines. Usually we sit in the back, very, very back, because we have two kids, me and my wife.
Yep.
We often go to North Carolina at least twice a year to visit my parents. So that's what, a 5 hour flight or whatever, 4 hours.
Yep.
And the flight attendant is, they all sit in the very back and they're bickering at each other about the company. And I was thinking, your guys' customer is sitting right here, and I'm in earshot of you guys complaining about the company.
Whoa.
And I just felt weird. It was like, wow, that's not good, right? And you can feel it. You can feel, I think, if the culture's bad, maybe that's why certain airlines have better flight attendants, versus the ones that are kind of bitchy. You're just like, dude, I don't even want to fly this airline because I don't want to deal with some bitchy lady the whole time. So yeah, it's just the culture's everywhere and you can feel it, right? When was it? There was another example too I had where somebody was complaining, um, like at a restaurant or something. Just like anytime I hear somebody complaining and I'm a consumer there, it's like I can hear you complaining about your own company to the customer. That's just a big no-no, you know? So,
Do you miss welding?
no, I don't miss welding at all. No. Sorry, I was looking at, for some reason, my computer isn't getting charged. I think somebody unplugged it. So, no, I don't miss welding. No, I like operating the business and doing those things.
What did welding teach you about yourself?
Um, I don't think it taught me how to work hard, but it reinforced, you know, it made me work hard. So that's pretty hard physical labor, doing steel and welding work and um, doing it myself. I worked many, many days. Like the average day was 12 hours easily doing physical labor. Some days were 18, 24. The longest time I ever worked straight with taking little like 10-minute naps through it as I was on standby, they call it, was 36 hours. I was doing physical labor.
Really?
And then I drove home 2.5 hours after doing that without sleeping and I was hallucinating and almost crashed. So, I mean, it teaches you a lot about work, a lot about people.
You mentioned about identity. When a company loses its identity, where do you think it rebuilds it first?
Where does it rebuild it first?
Where do you yeah, like where do you rebuild it?
I think going back to basics of what worked.
Hmm.
Yeah, going back to basics of what worked. And I think that starts with ownership, you know. Say you have some shit that's going wrong. I think you don't need to like go out of your way of running around, the streets declaring it that you fucked up. But you know, if somebody brings it up, if a client brings it up, hey man, you guys are not on top of it as you usually are, right? Taking ownership. Don't make an excuse. Say, you know what? You're right. I apologize. To be honest, you've been a good client. And this year we just tried to grow too fast and our management's overworked and things are slipping through the cracks. So I appreciate you calling me though. And I want you to know this has my attention, right? Like full ownership instead of making excuses. I think ownership's always the way to start. First place to start, right?
Hmm. If the employees are complaining about the company, what do you think that tells you about the leadership? Or complaining where customers can hear them?
It tells you a lot about the leadership, right? Probably that the leadership isn't listening to the employees, right? And
Good.
again, there's times where probably maybe what they're saying is justified. Maybe it's not justified. But either way, a more senior employee should tell the other one, because this lady who mentioned that, I think she was new, like 3 to 6 months into working for AA, American Airlines. I would say them. I would expect the more senior person who's talking to her, who's been there for years, instead of keep listening, saying, "Hey, there's customers within earshot. If you want to complain about work, let's go do it at the bar tonight without our company clothes on." You know what I mean? Where we're at a bar, not in front of our customers at work. So I think that's part of it too with culture is um, empowering people to hold the standard. But it again, it can get eroded too. If you're not paying attention, it gets eroded. And I'm in that right now, so I'm speaking from experience. I've built a good culture, and then I've done the wrong things, and I've eroded it. Now I have to fix it. Which luckily, once you've done something once, you know what to do to fix it. So that's always a plus.
Well, something to think about with culture as well is that some of these things are out of our control. When a civilization grows beyond itself which can happen as a result of its value. Rome was had unbelievable power. It it grew from that power. Its size, its size starts working against it.
Yep.
So it's like there is a degree. This is something I've been trying to figure out well for some time, but also more. I don't have a more philosophical. I don't have an answer to it. It's more of like a conundrum. Is how much of that is fault of leadership versus responsibility of leadership. Example. Here's an example. I know you haven't seen The Odyssey yet. Shoot, I'm thinking about spoilers. I don't want to spoil
You
anything.
can spoil it, dude. It's fine.
Well,
I don't
obviously,
give
so
a
this is the
shit.
thing.
I'll still watch it.
It's a 3,000-year-old book, and so everything's in there. It's I guess like everybody knows. I actually haven't read the book. I didn't do go to school enough to read the book. Because everybody I've talked to that's read it, they're like, yeah, I read that in high school. It's like, well, I didn't really go. So, and apparently you didn't either. So, um, here we are, right? There's a sentiment in there about how the main character, Odysseus, this is a brilliant guy, and he has a lot of influence, and he's uh, positioned as responsible for winning the Trojan War because he had the idea to put all the guys in the horse and the Trojan horse, like so all these warriors are inside the horse, so their enemies don't know. Talk about Sun Tzu. They don't know that
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
gift is really
Yeah, yeah.
a
No,
trick.
I've seen
Okay.
that. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, if you ever
Is
saw
that part of the
Troy,
Odyssey? Yeah,
that's
I've
from
seen Troy.
Troy. Yeah,
I've
so
seen Troy a hundred times.
Troy's like part one. I think that's the Iliad, and the Odyssey is the movie that just came out. So, and that's
Oh,
about
really?
what happens after. Yeah, it's really freaking
I
amazing stuff.
love that movie, dude. Troy's great.
But one of the lessons is that essentially Odysseus, there's a lot out of his control. And there's stuff going on with the gods, Poseidon, Zeus, that no matter what he does, it's beyond what he can control and what he can ultimately consider his responsibility. So I just want to add on the culture thing, some of this, like, no matter what, I'm not in the same circumstances I was when I first started this, when no one listened, when I didn't even have a show, when I hadn't written any books, when I had never worked with customers that were significant when I didn't ha have as much experience in working with businesses. And so if I flipped it on your side, think about when you were 16 and you were just welding and you didn't have hundreds of people relying on you indirectly or dozens of people directly. Uh, like the business breaks itself from its own success is kind of the long. I took a long way to get there. Is like, and it needs to be reinvented every now and again. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's totally true. As far as the responsibility part, I mean, there is certain things that as a owner of a company or a leader, you cannot delegate. Um, and those are things that I think when you get busy, you might be quick to delegate them,
Ooh, that's good. Let's go there.
you know? So,
What do you mean?
I would say could could be trying to have other people set your culture, right? Or lead people. And what that looks like in a practical sense for me being in construction was, having other people manage jobs and then me thinking, okay, I'm just gonna talk to that guy. I'm not really gonna go out there. And nothing crazy bad happened, but the culture wasn't to the standard that I wanted it, where I should have been out there fine tuning, training, adjusting. You know, I think I think the real obsession should be about excellence and not as much about growth. And that's also where I've made some mistakes. I focused on growing and getting more and getting bigger and not on excellence. So I think that's really the point. That's like somebody is the same trap that people get in. They want more gross margin, but you want more net margin, not gross margin. So again, that's more um, quality. That's a higher standard to get the net margin higher, than it is. It's easy to get gross margin high. All you got to do is go sell shit. That's easy. You know, that's how we've been able to double in size, but we didn't have all the other things in place to keep the net margin growing with the gross margin. So that's the downfall. That's the pivot. That's what I have to fix now.
How do you know you cross the line from pursuing excellence to chasing growth for its own sake? I'm thinking vanity growth versus, right? So how do you know?
Yeah. I think sometimes you get caught up pretty quick because you're getting a lot of opportunities. And other times, you might have someone else stimulating some of that in a way that maybe shouldn't be happening, right? If you have a salesperson. Um, but I would say when you get caught up, let's see, that's a good question. I would define that as if you get caught up just trying to check things off a box and you're doing less inspection of your company and less accountability, then the standard's going to get lower. The standard of excellence is going to inherently get lower the less amount of inspecting you're doing. That's how you maintain a high level of excellence, right? It comes through inspection and accountability from the basic level, right? You're inspecting. Here's the standard. Is the standard getting met? That's the inspection part. The accountability part is you see them. You are conducting the inspecting, and then you have to hold someone accountable if they did not, if they're not up to par. And now, if you're busy chasing growth for vanity's sake, you don't have time to do those things properly because you're too busy chasing your own ass.
I interviewed a gentleman that was top of the one of the largest, or it's the largest wholesale lender in the United States of America for mortgage. And he was explaining to me the culture, and in that culture, the account executives only use the phone of the company, like a phone from the company, and their job is to be on the phone talking to customers all day long because the relationship they have with the customers that need capital for their borrowers, that's relative to that advisor, advisee, or consultative relationship. So they have to be on the phone talking to the relationships, customers. And what I was told was if they are not on the phone, there is really no space. It's just goodbye, here's your stuff. Like there is no second, third chance. You either are doing that or you're out.
Yep.
I want to, you mentioned there are certain things that cannot be delegated at this juncture. What's on that list today?
One sec. I'm writing some stuff down from this. I like that. You're either doing it or you're out. Now, obviously, from a practical sense, there's some HR steps in between there, but
Well, I mean, each culture shapes its own behaviors, habits, and
yeah, I
rituals
mean,
that
at that,
needs back there, right? So it's like who,
yeah, I would say at that place, they probably don't even fire that many people. There's probably just, if you're not on your game, people just are looking at you like, what? And then you probably just leave.
that's a deep, I would actually agree with you on that. That's a deep insight
Yeah, I mean,
to human
a
behavior.
high level culture just weeds people out because they're like, dude, you're making me look bad. That's not how we do shit. Get out of here. Either rise to my level or goodbye.
One of my favorite culture case studies ever to study is that I haven't I just thinking out loud now. I have not done justice to this on the Culture Runners podcast. So thanks for this conversation, Nate. I'm gonna write this down to share some of my studies on the show, but King Philip the Second's it's King Philip the Second's historical development of his army that Alexander the Great inherited and put to use in his campaigns. But ultimately, it's like there's a tremendous lessons of the training, the diplomacy, the the use of technology, the how they educated the troops and
Yeah, is this
the
a book
loyalty.
or
There's
what
one
kind
book
of
I'd recommend by that on the subject. On war. It's a history.
what
But
is it?
oh shoot, his Darth Rip. Wait, hold on a second, because it's got a weird name. Um,
He's in there
it's
surrounded by
down.
books, everybody.
It's yeah. Hopefully they're watching on YouTube too. This book, the actual book, I'm gonna run down. It's in the garage in a suitcase. Hold on one second.
He actually knows right where it is. This is great. In the garage in a suitcase.
We have a serious problem. So
Is it 3 books?
no, our cleaner Nancy cleans out our suitcases, and I have no idea where she put it, but it's by one of the most famous.
Nancy.
She's amazing, yeah, culture, but uh, it's by Doge, the last name Doge. I'll get the name. He's a famous historian, one of the most famous United States military historians. He has a whole book, multiple volumes on Caesar, Napoleon, Alexander the Great, and a couple others. I haven't read them, but
Wow.
the Alexander the Great one I've actually never finished. I've studied so slowly two of its chapters that are just profound, how they break down the 30,000 um the 30,000 or so warriors in that the Grand Phalanx. But these four, I can attest for this by Philip Freeman, is a very motivating and informative book on Alexander that's very accessible and a lot of fun to read that I've read a couple times.
And who's that by?
Philip Freeman. It goes through his campaigns and his life and very motivating. These are three new ones
Yeah.
I haven't read yet that I'm excited to get through in 2027. Arian wrote about Alexander the Great. It's from like thousands of years ago or thousand years around the time of Alexander the Great. I think um, he was 356 to
It was written
326
around that
BC.
time.
Well, Arian was a historian
Oh my
a
gosh.
long, 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 long time ago that wrote about Alexander the Great. I think let's see. Yeah, 356 to 323 BC. Yeah, so Arrian sums up the career of Alexander the Great of Macedon, who in 12 years that changed the world led his army in conquest of a vast empire extending from the Danube to the rivers of Punjab, from Egypt to Uzbekistan, and died in Babylon at the age of 32 with further ambitions unfulfilled. Here's one of the sentiments, and then I'll end the diatribe on Alexander. When you look up his bodyguard, um, a couple of like the eight men that made up his bodyguard, at least two of them went on to be unbelievably powerful kings, essentially. Ptolemy that ran Egypt, whose great 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 whatever granddaughter was Cleopatra, and that believe it, so Cleopatra was connected through relation of family downline to one of the bodyguards of Alexander the Great. That's how much core value modeling Alexander modeled, put forth in his leadership. And it was a continuation from what his father set forth. The training, the technology, the systems, the processes, the core values, the vision. It was just
And who was his dad?
King Philip II of Macedon,
Oh,
who I
King Philip
believe was,
II was his dad, really?
yeah, and I think he was the second because there was a first who was, I don't know enough about him more I'd like to know more about him, but
Well,
that
see, that would be a cool book to read, like as you're raising a son, because my son's only a year old, right? To figure out, right, how
oh,
do
that's
you raise
love
somebody
that.
in greatness, you know? 'Cause I
Well,
try to be intentional with things that I'm doing, and I'm very hard on my kids, but in a way I think that they understand. I mean, they're only 2 and 1, so I'm not
I love,
sure.
well, that's a freaking amazing way to look at it. And it also teaches you what not to do because King Philip and Alexander ultimately, what started as a beautiful bond to the point where Philip was said to have said to Alexander at 12 or 11 after he mounted a horse, Bucephalus, that was ended up being his horse for 20 years. Nobody could mount this horse, but Alexander figured out how to mount it at 12. King Philip said to him at that young age, uh, something to the effect of Macedonia is not big enough for you. Like you're going to have to do more. Macedonia will not be big enough for you. But so it went from like, an admiring relation to they got in a really big fight uh, when Alexander was like 19 and King Philip tried to stab him and tripped over a sofa drunk out of his mind. And Alexander was like, you can't, how do you expect to cross the I don't know what river it was. How do you expect to cross the Hellespont or the Dan one of these rivers? How do you expect to cross the river? Oh no, how do you expect to yeah to cross into Persia if you can't cross over a couch? At least this is what's been said, right? And then he had to flee, and like his mom helped him get out of Macedonia, and then King Philip ended up getting killed randomly by someone who's very. So anyway, I digress. It's almost like a TV show, like a reality TV show. Um,
Well, that's where the egos of men get in the way, right?
so I like studying these stories that show us what not to do as well.
Yeah.
Nate Swink, thanks for coming back on the Culture Matters podcast. I'll make sure I respect your time. I know you have more meetings.
Oh, I'm good, dude. If you want to keep rolling on time,
Oh, well,
this
shit.
is
Okay. I
fun.
thought you, yeah. Well, hell yeah.
Now we can go till 6 if you want.
Yeah, we're good to go then. So then my curiosity is, yeah, what stands out from that story about Alexander and King Philip or y-
I don't know. I might have to read it. I'm going to dive in and read it. Somebody who I've been starting to, I don't read a ton. I read, but I listen to a lot of books because I do a lot of driving and other things. Um, and I've been listening to this autobiography about TR, Theodore Roosevelt. What an interesting man. That he's like one of the all-time greats for sure.
which one was it? The old one, it's like by Edmund Morris, the one it's got like four books.
I believe so. It's like I think it's this is an audiobook, so it's one and yeah, it is Edmund Morris. It's 26 hours long, dude.
Yeah, and there's four of them. It's unbelievable.
Well, this is I think all four, right? Because it's
No,
26 hours.
no,
Or
no, no.
oh
I
shit.
don't think so. Well, let me just look, Edmund.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
really
think
good.
so.
And it recites things he said and I mean, he's wild.
It's three volumes. Edmund Morris, I knew it was a couple, but wrote a three-volume biography about Theodore Roosevelt. Yeah, The Rise, Theodore Rex. What's the biggest takeaway so far? Why should our listeners
Oh,
learn?
I'm only in like 2 hours, but I would just say there's some very good parenting things in that too that I've read where it's like, okay, just the way his dad was. His dad was very much TD was just like or TR was just like his dad, but even better in many ways, like an improved version. And then
Really?
also how how people can compound success when you raise them correctly. You know, like he grew up very wealthy. His dad was very wealthy, one of the wealthiest guys around New York, a successful businessman, and TR just built on that, right? But his dad made sure that he wasn't lazy and privileged in other things. So it's very interesting. And there was also a lot of crazy shit that TR did as a kid, um, skinning animals, taxiderming animals at a young age. Like, I don't know, I think 8 to 10. I didn't quite catch the age, but it was very young, enough where his housekeeper threatened to quit because he kept giving her like whatever, like a dead skunk or something, and said, "Hey, can you boil this for 24 hours for me?" And she finally went to his parents and said, "Hey, this stuff keeps going on. I'm out of here." And then they went to the TR and said, "Hey, okay, you got to tone it down just a little bit." But letting a kid foster his imagination, right? That's another lesson of learning. Letting a kid be wild and foster their imagination and not be so worried about them hurting themselves. I mean, TR had like a gun and knives when he was like, I think 6 or 8. He's out
Wow.
hunting and skinning animals and doing all these things, and his dad's cool with it. So I think there's a lot to be said with that, not sheltering your kids, training them, and then if they have interest, fostering that interest instead of saying, "Oh, that's weird" or whatever. So I'm only a couple hours into the book, but it's intriguing.
I think we have our national parks to thank for him, our conservation, a lot of.
Yeah, that the Panama Canal. There's loads of stuff.
Just for the audience's sake, that book, the author of the definitive work I was talking about for you earlier, was Theodore Ayrault, like Ayrault, Theodore Ayrault, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Dodge, Dodge. He wrote a definitive book on Alexander the Great. It's widely available online. Actually, it's not. I ordered one for a client recently, and it came in as weird print. So when you're going to buy it on Amazon, be very scrupulous of which copy you get, because these aren't like super known books, but it breaks down
Or
to the
go
to
to
the
a
T.
go to a bookstore too. I get the Kiplinger now.
Oh,
Great publication. I get the Kiplinger letter every week sent to my house, and it's very good. Real quick, high level shot of business and economical news. If anybody doesn't have that, I would get that. It's a couple $100 a year. Anyway, the Kiplinger says that brick and mortar bookstores are back.
yes,
They're making a big comeback, that's a great thing to see. So screw
yes,
Amazon. Go to your bookstore and order it through them.
yes, they're absolutely back. Um, they're absolutely back. I was going to mention, so the Macedonian phalanx. This was a group of soldiers that worked completely in one as unison. If we're looking at like an analogy for your companies, what's a competitive advantage that you'd say you've spent years trying to build inside of your company, akin to something like that? These met, they trained together. They knew the formations like the back of their hand. What's anything that you would say is a competitive advantage?
To transparency, I have taken my eye off that ball, to be honest. So that's where
So
we need to
honesty.
rebuild. Yeah, that's where we need to rebuild and get back to basics and develop more. I wasn't in a position to grow this fast. We didn't have a lot of training things, systems. So like that's where we're at now. Like what do we need to do to get there where we can train, build culture better, have more business people functions, meetings, but not just meetings, but company gatherings.
There was never a company meeting where I didn't talk about the core values, why they mattered, where we were going, or who we were.
Yep. Yeah, that's important. I think
And
that gets overlooked too sometimes. That needs to always be top of mind.
uh, what what kind of people are you intentionally trying to develop?
I would say first people that abide by our core values. So that's someone who takes initiative, someone who's always prepared, someone who's disciplined, who goes the extra mile. Um, and that's kind of the basis when we have conversations. That's the basis that we try to have them in. Today, I talked to somebody as I was inspecting, and he wasn't up to par. I had to have that conversation. Here's the areas you're falling short that you need to tighten up.
What is so take initiative in a sentence. How does one actually take initiative?
Yeah. So by definition, it is when we see something that needs to be done, we do it. That's the definition.
Love that.
Yeah. So if we see something that needs to get done, we do it. We execute. And always prepared is we are physically and mentally prepared for the task at hand. They're not complicated, but they're extremely important.
Um, well, yeah, don't covet is pretty simple, but Uh,
Yeah, right. Or thou shalt not whatever kill.
uh,
I don't know. That
the-
one's is pretty simple, I guess.
what go to the extra mile? What's the definition?
Go the extra mile is we always go the extra mile for our team and our customers to
What are
help
some
our no,
examples?
we always go the extra mile to help our team and customers achieve their goals. So one example could be somebody staying late, could be somebody, taking initiative. A lot of core values, I think, interact with one another. Usually you're going to do, if you're doing one, you're going to somewhat do others inherently, right? Um, yeah, I mean, going the extra mile is very much similar to taking initiative, but we look at it in a way that's more customer focused, right? Like you went the extra mile on this specific thing that in turn really made us look good for the customer.
Let's say one of your team members 5 years from now starts their own business. What do you say they what do you hope they say they learned from you?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm going to write that down and work on that.
What would you hope they wouldn't say?
I know they wouldn't say I'm dishonest or anything, so that's good. But I would like them to say that,
Hmm.
yeah, I need to work on that. Yeah, I'm writing it down.
Alexander inherited an extraordinary culture of discipline from King Philip II. That's like hands down. But it reminds me of something you said earlier that some things simply cannot be delegated. So if someone walked in your company, let's say 10 years from now, what would you, and you know, and they, what would you hope that they're feeling?
If they walked into our company 10 years from now, I would hope that they would feel one, energy, excitement, and also some pressure, um, a little uneasiness, right? I think you want everybody to be comfortable and know that they have a job, know that the company's stable, but there should be some uneasiness, some little, like a healthy level of stress to perform, to execute. I would say that. I would say that they look at the core values and really can see that, like they know what the values are just by looking at the people and interacting briefly with the people. That would be a fruitful um, thing for sure.
Do you have a word for 2026?
I don't have a word for 2026.
My word
What's
is
your
love
word?
for 2026.
What is it?
Love. And it means relational
Love.
responsibility. Every year and you're invited, you're more than invited. This year, Lollapalooza, every year we have New Year's Eve Lollapalooza on
Yeah, I was
Coach Mass
bummed. I
podcast.
missed it, man. I had like the worst stomach flu. I was on the toilet nonstop for 24 hours and I missed Lollapalooza.
Next year, just, come anyway, wear a diaper.
I'll just join the Zoom from the toilet.
Well, I'm really proud. There,
Uh,
there's only two people of the 61 that weren't able to make it that were invited. And you had it, and they both had damn good reasons. They were really, really, really sick. So we have definitely a tight-knit culture. Um, and I think also that expresses that I could be more loving, meaning invite more people that I know, because then that number will change, right? More people won't be able to come so that just tells me that I'm not I'm not yet there. So, but that being said, my word was love and it meant relational responsibilities, meaning I have a responsibility to get people together that I like, know, and trust, and they like, know, and trust me.
Mm.
But so if you did have a word for 2026,
Sorry, taking notes. If I had a word, what would it be?
what are three words it would not be?
What are three words it would not be?
Keep it PG-13.
Oh my gosh, three words it would not be? Um, I have no idea, man. I don't even know where my mind goes with that. I would say, I would say, um, I would say if I had to pick a word, my word would be accountability. It would be, not it would not be. It would be accountability.
Nate, it's always a pleasure having you on the Culture Matters podcast. I'm looking forward to next time. We won't wait 2 years to do it. And we'll see you on New Year's Eve, of course, Lollapalooza.
Yes, without a doubt, brother. I'll be there for that.
Thanks for some of the interview and holding court. We got some great Alexander
We
homework
did,
ahead of
yeah.
us.
We
This,
do have a lot of homework. That's a big book.
yeah, this one I haven't read yet. It's Philip and Alexander. So that's I'm excited for that one by Adrian Goldsworthy. So our listeners got some good books to check out. And if they're interested, I'll share. We have an upcoming series on the Odyssey coming out on the Culture Matters podcast. And Nate, if you could just share, how can people connect with you the fastest? Maybe they want to work for your company or learn more about the organization. We have many listeners on the West Coast. Others may want to relocate. If you share where you're located, what who you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I would say so. We're located in Southern California. We're looking for, really anybody, anyone who's honest and wants to become an expert in their field. The easiest way to get a hold of me is probably by email, Nate, Nate, at Swinks, Swinks, welding.com. You can follow me on Instagram as well, Nate_Swink. Not posting too much content on there though. I used to be a content machine and then had to reallocate resources, time and energy for sure.
Nate, this has been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait for next time. If you're listening to this, please share this with somebody that matters to you, and we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast.